Hey, nog 'n episode van Stroom Stories. Vandag is ons hierso met Alabama Dream.
Hi.
Baie dankie dat julle op ons show gekom het vandag en 'n bietjie met ons praat.
You're so welcome.
Ja,
Ek dink julle moet dalk julleself voorstel. Ek dink dis 'n goeie plek om te begin.
Okay, ek is Lorette.
I'm Brent.
Ons is Alabama Dream.
Right. So vertel ons 'n bietjie van waar julle ontmoet het. So ek weet julle het gepraat van julle kom eintlik van Nysna af. So vertel ons 'n bietjie daai pad, daai storie.
Dit was 'n baie lang tyd terug.
Yes.
Ons is al 20 jaar saam.
Wow.
En ek was glad nie 'n musikant nog toe Brent my ontmoet het nie. Ons het ontmoet in Aston Bay. Ek het vir my ouers in hulle what do you call it? Like
Which
a
is
convenience
near Jeffreys
store.
Bay, folks, which is
Jeffreys
near
Bay.
PE or Quebeca.
Ja. En Brent het ingekom vir sy daaglikse inkopies. En ek het uitgevind hy was 'n musikant. Hulle het hulle album met my gedeel. And I guess I went to the shows en ek wou leer om gitaar te speel. Toe het ek begin met gitaarlesse. And the rest
She already
is
had a
pretty
guitar.
much
Her
history,
parents had
yeah.
bought her a guitar and an amplifier for her birthday,
Yes.
but she needed someone to teach her. And
Electric.
a friend of mine actually, Anton met you first, didn't he?
I'm not sure. I feel like I met everyone at the same
Oh,
time.
okay.
so
Well, I was
can't
playing music
remember.
with a couple of guys, and there was just one superette in Aston Bay, so I guess everybody met you because you were working behind the
I was
counter,
working.
12 hours a day. No.
Working hard.
Oh, that's so romantic.
Thanks.
So you basically got your love from music from Brent.
No, I don't think so. I think she
Yeah, it was
was very crazy about music,
albums.
but okay, well, I'll put it in a different. I'll come from a different angle.
Okay.
We got together, and I was playing with other musicians, but also solo gigs. And we used to travel around in a car that didn't have a good radio.
Oh yeah.
And I had a small guitar. So I used to entertain us by playing this little guitar and singing songs. And then I started to notice that she sings really good harmony, like natural ability to latch onto your voice and harmonize.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of really good singers that I've worked with actually struggle with the harmony part of things. Some people can sing really well, but they struggle to harmonize. She could just somehow do it naturally. Turns out we think this is from years and years of listening to her father's record collection, which included things like the Beach Boys and other bands from that era that were very harmony orientated. So anyway, at the gigs I was playing, the solo performances, she used to sit like close as girlfriends do in those early years when they just admire you and think that you can't do any wrong, which the bubble of which is about to be burst soon. They just don't know that yet. And I would play, and she would sit and sing the whole way through the show. So eventually, at some point, I put another bar stool and a microphone and said, "There you go." And then she started. Yeah, and then she started doing it. Yeah.
But ja, maar nou by julle paar jare is daar nie meer regtig stage fright obviously.
Yeah.
And then she went on to singing the lead vocal, for want of a better expression, for a lot of the
My
songs.
eerste professionele gig saam met Brent was by die 2010 Grahamstown Arts Festival. Dit ons Brent se show was eintlik sy oorspronklike show, maar ek het harmonies in hom. Was my eerste professional.
So that's where Alabama Dream kind of originated.
No, that came much later. That only happened when we
It's a
moved
long
up here.
story.
Yeah, that took COVID and the disaster of that for that to happen. Now I played. I had an album that came out in 2010, which, as she said, we promoted at the National Arts Festival, and then we kind of. I think we were just Brent and Lorette for like the longest time. I, of course, wanted it to be Lorette and Brent, but she didn't want that. So we went because she she thought somehow if her name is second, people will pay less attention to her, and she was shy. I don't know about how that works.
Why.
But yeah, so we did that for many years, and then we just about a year or two actually before the COVID thing, we teamed up with a great percussion player from the Garden Route named Eugene van Pletten, and we called ourselves 10 Canoes for a while. And that was sort of still happening when the COVID disaster happened. We left the Garden Route. We went to Port Elizabeth, where I'm born in PE, so I was from there, and her folks were coincidentally staying there. So we went through to kind of be with family. Then we ended up in Durban, where my daughter lives. Got caught in those horrific riots that happened about a week after we were there.
Wow.
And in a desperate need to flee Durban, not being able to get back to the Western Cape or the Eastern Cape, we could go north. The roads were open north, and we have our good friend Anton, who's been living in Parys all these years, who I met before I even met Lorette, so we go way back. He said, no, come up to Parys and come hang out for a couple of weeks until all the, the dust settles down there. And we did, and we've been here ever since. So, so that's a little weird. But the Alabama Dream thing comes from the fact that a couple of years into our relationship, I met Jonathan.
It was quite a few years, actually. I think we were already
Okay. Well, there's this beautiful family called the Roberts family. It's a husband and wife and 5 kids, and they live in Lickskillet, Alabama. And Jackie is South African born, and when we met them, Jonathan and her were in South Africa visiting her family, and at that time was in love with bluegrass music, and somebody that I knew that and said, hey, I know like an authentic bluegrass banjo player from Alabama. Do you want to meet him? So I was like, of course. So we met. We played in a band for a couple of years called the Huckleberries. They ended up staying for 2 or 3 years, and then they went back to the States, and we stayed in contact all the years. And then when this COVID thing happened, along with just about all the other musicians in the world, probably, we lost a huge amount of work. And we really struggled financially. And Jonathan and Jackie kind of reached out from the States and helped us out with some of the extra dollars that Donald Trump gave them, which they were quite happy to receive. A lot of people got handouts from that administration at the time. Helped us out with some money, and then they started this whole idea of us moving over there and living with them in Alabama, playing music together with them and their kids, who are growing up to be fantastic bluegrass musicians, by the way. And so that was the Alabama dream, was this dream of going over there, and that still is sort of the plan. So we needed a new branding and a new name, and so that's where that came from.
We reinvented ourselves.
Yeah, we changed the material as well that we played,
learned
some different things in that, but it was just the idea of not being Brent and Lorette anymore.
Okay. I like the story.
I mean it's kind of the story. I mean, it's choosing band names is actually a notoriously difficult thing to do. For anyone who's been in a band, they'll know this. You sit around and you talk for hours and hours, and you come up with a whole list of ridiculous ideas, and none of those ever become the actual name. It's always
as soon as you think you got something really great and you type it into Google, someone's already got it.
The internet shows you how not original you are.
There's a Facebook page with that name. It's, you can't go.
And there was no Alabama Dream, so we were like, okay, we'll take it. Thank you.
Nice. But it's such a lovely story, and it has a big story behind it. It's not just like, oh, you like the name.
I think
it means something.
it's kind of cool, and of course we use it as an opportunity to tell people all about the Roberts family whenever we can, because that's just a lovely.
They were a lifeline to us.
Really,
for a while, and they really special
Wonderful.
people.
Shout out to the
Yes,
To the Roberts
shout out.
family.
Yes. Okay, so where does your like musical inspiration come from? Who inspires you?
Somebody different every sort of 10 days or so. So,
It's constantly
and
that's
I'm
hard
not
to
even
balance.
joking. It's like at the moment, I'm very into this guy Tom Waits. I don't know if you know Tom Waits. He's by no means a spring chicken. I think he's around 75 years old this year. American recording artist. He's been around since the late 60s, early 70s. Singer, songwriter, very interesting performer, great lyrics. Just for some reason, I don't know, YouTube suggested him to me about 10 days ago, and I've been listening to all of his stuff. So it kind of goes like that, and then that affects me in whatever way it does. Prior to that, I'd been listening to a lot of this 1930s styled jazz manouche, it's called, which is like a French version of the swing jazz that was popular in America in the 1930s. That migrated to Europe, and in different countries in Europe it took on a different kind of flavor and style. And in France there were a bunch of Sinti gypsy guys who formed this style called jazz manouche. So I'd been listening to a lot of that before, trying to work it out on the guitar. Hugely difficult, but fun, and you know.
Ek leer die bass vir die jazz manouche op die oomblik, maar dis
Ja.
baie makliker as wat Brent, dit is nie maklik nie, maar dit is makliker as wat om die lead te speel, die melodies en so aan, is baie werk.
So
Maar ja, so ons drome van jazz manouche.
Yeah, the idea, I guess, is if you find, because we have to travel in two streams, there's this, I think all art people, it's the same, right? You're trying to express yourself and do what you feel compelled to do, but there's also the necessity of earning a living.
yeah.
So you have to adjust. So we try and draw from what inspires us, but what we also think can assist us in being able to make a living. And what's quite nice about this swing jazz stuff is it's very, it gets people's feet tapping and gets them moving.
Yeah,
Now,
true.
our music up to now has been largely listening or sing-along type of music. We only have the one acoustic guitar and the two voices, so it's not something that people can really dance to or move to. So now we're thinking maybe with her playing the bass, and maybe our friend Anton joining us on rhythm guitar, we can get something that's a little bit more suited for getting people up on their feet. So that's kind of the idea, is you know, take the, so I don't know where Tom Waits is going to fit into all of this, but that's just been happening in the last 10 days, so I don't know. When I get home, it could be something else. When something else pops up on YouTube, you
Understand.
just go there.
So what you're listening to definitely influences the music you play.
Yeah, absolutely. Or at least your thought process about it. I mean, and then eventually you might like, there is one Tom Waits song that we do, but that came from, when we first moved up here, we were watching the HBO TV show The Wire. I don't know if you ever saw that show. Really great TV show.
Fantasties.
The Wire. People
The Wire.
highly recommend it.
Check
You
it out.
can't go wrong. 5 seasons of genius.
It's awesome.
But there's a song that they use as a theme song, which is the song by Tom Waits called Way Down in the Hole, which is actually a gospel tune. But what they did is each season they had a different artist perform it. So he performed it on one of the seasons, and then there were 4 others. So we really got into that song. So we added that into the show. But that has nothing to do with my recent Tom Waits obsession. That's something else. We'll see what else we might borrow from Tom.
So how do you set up like your set list for? Do you cater to the specific event you're going to, or do you have like a set one that you use?
Yeah, we do.
We have, because we don't use like books with like song books like some performers do, or we try not to. Lorette sometimes uses her phone for prompting of lyrics, but usually that's just if it's a new song maybe that she doesn't know the words to. I can't do that. I find it very distracting. So I can keep in my head around about probably no more than 100 songs, right? And then some have to leave for others to come in. And the ones that you use stay more, more intact. The ones that you're not really using, you can forget little bits and pieces of them. So probably around about 70 songs is what our repertoire consists of at the moment, and then depending on where we're playing, we pick from those what we think will be better suited.
Oh, yeah.
So we had mentioned earlier, we went to Bothaville recently to perform for Father's Day at the golf club. Very, very sweet place, lovely audience, about 80 people. But for that audience, you can very quickly see, once the room fills up, that you're going to do better with, say, something like a Beatles tune might go down better than a Tom Waits song. Let's say. So then you just pick from that, and you need, on average, about, for an afternoon like that, maybe 30 to 40 songs.
Wow.
So you'll pick the 40 from that group of 70 that seem most applicable.
Ons voel die crowd.
Okay, ja.
As ons voel
So-
die gaan beter werk vir hulle.
So julle memorize al julle,
Yeah.
dis insane. Yeah, that's impressive.
Thanks. Yeah, it's part of the thing. Repetition is reinforcement, obviously, like with any activity. So a lot of things you don't really have to think about much, but there are some that are trickier. The jazz standards that we do, and that if I don't do them for a couple of weeks, I can start to forget which chord follows which chord or whatever. But a lot of the pop sort of stuff is very simple. 3 or 4 chords.
Yeah.
The lyrics are usually quite easy, basic rhyming couplets. It's like not really that difficult.
Yeah. But still, if it was 10 songs, then I agree with you, but as soon as you say like 100 songs that you have memorized, then it starts to get really impressive.
Well, yeah, again, thanks. In a list like that would be something I've been playing for years, which is, say, like an example could be Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. The chorus of that is just go Johnny go. So they're not all very demanding. Some are a little more chunky, like there's more stuff to remember. And then we've discussed the kind of techniques you might use to remember songs. What I do with lyrics is I try to remember it in a storyboard form. So if you look at, like, when from what I can tell, when directors are directing films, they look at each shot that they're going for is normally up on the top of a storyboard, and they have like pictures that they look at, sometimes even just hand-drawn pictures, to make it clear what shot they're aiming for. So I do that for me with lyrics. I do the same thing. I try to think of the story to remind myself what the words are. I don't know exactly what your technique is, but
I don't know if I have a technique.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think it just becomes muscle memory. Ek is nie so goed soos Brent met die woorde onthou nie, maar dit word muscle memory. Hoe meer jy hom doen, hoe meer. Ja, maar my foon het ek actually net daar vir, want ek's bang ek onthou iets nie. So dis meer fear-based dat ek hom net daar het vir ingeval.
In case,
Ja.
Ja, ek verstaan. In case.
Yeah, but what's really funny with that, which is why it's a bone of contention, is that she'll be singing along, forget all about the prompter because she's in her comfort zone. Then she realizes, whoops, okay, the third verse is coming up. I'm not sure what that is. She goes to try and scroll it on it and scrolls too far.
Oh, no.
And then the panic starts, and I just see the finger going, and the eyes get this big.
En ek raak baie gou distracted. As iemand rondloop of iemand klap te hard in 'n verkeerde plek in die liedjie of skree, dan I get a little, so
Ek verstaan dit 100%. My word. En ek dink mense kom baie ook.
Ja, nee, dit doen. Veral as jy live optree en jy's in 'n groot saal soos the Snowflake or whatever, en mense doen net hulle ding, jy's background, so dis nie vir hulle sit nie stil. So dat daar gaan distractions wees. Dit gaan net nie, dis nie asof hulle cheap stil sit en vir jou kyk en jy het al die tyd in jou
Ja,
in die wêreld om.
Nee, is regterik. Ek verstaan. Wat sou julle sê is soos julle grootste uitdaging, your biggest challenges as like a duo opposed to like a solo artist?
Well, I wouldn't know because I've never been a solo artist. So
When you're a solo artist, if you a guy like me, you don't have to calculate an extra hour for the application of makeup before you leave for performance, which usually results in us being late or arguing about the time we should leave, like we did this morning. At a certain point, I had the car out in the street already, and she was hustling.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys are early.
Yeah.
Like we've had people show up 5 minutes before the time. So you guys are perfect.
Yeah, my idea is if something goes wrong, you need a little bit of time to improvise.
Yeah.
Like which you don't get if you say, okay, it takes 42 minutes to get to Potchefstroom from Parys, so we'll leave exactly at 42 minutes before that.
but
That
what if
seems
something goes wrong?
seems illogical to me to do.
I get that.
But yeah, no, I think to answer your question more seriously, when you solo, you can ad-lib a lot more. So if I'm doing a song and the audience it can be because they're paying attention or they're not paying attention, but you might decide to repeat a chorus twice in a certain section of the song. The person who's performing with you, if they don't know that you're going to do that, you can throw them off.
Oh, yeah.
They expect they have to come back in, especially if the first line is really on the beat and they have to get that first note in, they're trying to sing with you, then you just shift off into the chorus, can create discomfort for the other person. So you can be a bit more selfish musically and self-indulgent than if you're in a group of any size, 2 or more people. You have to consider what the understanding is with the other people about how you're going to do the songs. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you guys like prepare for a performance? Like beforehand, like just like an hour before, do you guys warm up? Or you just go?
Ek doen 'n bietjie vocal warm-ups hier en daar want as ek nie dan sukkel ek. So ek het geleer jy doen 'n bietjie warm-up. Brent?
Yeah, I should warm up for the guitar playing part particularly, but fortunately in our group, I'm not doing a lot of, let's say like, challenging things for your left hand. Like if you're playing in a rock band, let's say, and you're going to be doing lots of guitar solos and things like that right from the get-go, it would be good to be warm so that your hands don't freeze up from all that effort.
Yeah.
But we're in a position where I can pick the easiest possible thing to play as the first song. So I can warm up over the course of the first few songs. So I don't have to worry too much. But if it's very cold, I like to warm up. What we do is run through, if there are songs again that are on that peripheral of that list that we've decided to use for like say the Snowflake performance, which we do quite regularly, try to change up the set. So try and bring things in that maybe people haven't heard us do before. That would be prudent to run through that at least once, just to see that we're on the same page with how it's structured and that I can remember the chords. And also I don't play in the wrong key, and then neither of us can hit the notes. Because I'm in F and I'm supposed to be in D or something.
And it takes a little bit of mental preparedness, I think, as well. It's not always easy, want veral as ander mense vir jou klank doen, dit klink nie soos wat jy gewoond is nie. Dan kan dit ook jou bietjie aantas. En al die plekke, al die venues het 'n ander klank aan hulle. So, maar so jy moet net eintlik jouself remind, just
Dit gaan wel bietjie anders.
Dit gaan anders klink, moenie paniek nie.
Wat is julle favorite gig wat julle al gedoen het of julle highlight? Sal julle sê?
It's always the ones where it's more of a show and less background. It's great to be included in these gigs, like the ones to give you an idea, we've mentioned now a few times Snowflake Market. That's a really beautiful market. So is the Dromus Market, the Varsmark. Those are really great. It's great to be part of those things because there's a community feeling that you feel part of, which is really great. But people are not there primarily for the musical performance.
Yeah,
They're there
that's
for,
it.
some of them haven't seen each other for a while, they want to get together, have fun, they're there to eat, enjoy themselves. So we prefer like these, what we mentioned earlier, these soirees where we basically invite people to come to a small, intimate type of setting,
Yeah.
where ideally they don't really chat, but they pay attention to the music.
Yeah.
That way it's nicer to play to 10 attentive people than to 1,000 that
Yeah.
are
Chatting. Yeah.
yeah, so those are the ones we look forward to the most. And also then we do our own sound setup, we control the sound, we control the space, and it just makes for a better experience overall, I think.
Yeah. Ja, ek kan understand that.
Definitely. Ja, ons geniet hulle verskriklik. Actually. We look
That's
forward
great.
to that,
I get to
yeah.
tell stories, and
Yeah.
people, they're listening, so you speak
Yeah.
and you entertain as much with just your antics and the things that you do on stage, whereas in a more background thing, people wouldn't notice if you were playing a kazoo out of your bum. They wouldn't.
En dit
They wouldn't,
dit
because they're
raak-
too busy chatting, and then they're
raakt
supposed to be.
mense,
So that's good. We
it
don't.
touches
yeah.
them more as well when they pay attention. It's a whole other, it's a anders the
Yeah.
experience, ja.
So ek weet jy het nou 'n bietjie groter stage fright, nee.
Yes.
So jy sê al is dit 'n kleiner show, die feit dat meer mense so erg vir jou luister, gee
Ja.
dit maak dit julle soos meer nervous in 'n sin as hierdie groot crowds wat jy weet jy's nie
Kans 'n
eintlik die
bietjie,
focus
maar dit
noodwendig
Yes.
nie.
Dis die regte woord actually is, dit gee jou actually meer fokus. Is actually goed om 'n bietjie butterflies
O ja.
te hê, want dit gee jou 'n bietjie meer fokus. So ek vind dit nogals.
Yeah, it feels
Like
like it
it's
matters more.
Yeah.
It matters like a little note out of tune or out of time, or a mistake. Like a common thing that can happen is you might start singing and realize you're singing the second verse, not the first verse.
Oh,
Like you
yeah.
get them the wrong way around, let's say, which is a weird malfunction of the brain that happens, I think, to anyone. That doesn't matter so much in a more background setting, but if it's a real performance, you feel, oh man, what a waste. Like, we had everyone's attention there, and we could have. So this is the difficulty with recording these events, as we discussed earlier, because we go back now after the show and we go and sit and watch that whole thing,
Oh ja.
and then I just sit and go, oh, really?
But you're always harder on yourself than other people on you.
Ja.
Absolutely, yeah.
En
And
ons
that-
standaard is hoog.
Yeah, you want it. The idea, I think, is I've mentioned this before. Actually, most recently, I think at the last soiree we did, there's a great writer, Cormac McCarthy. I don't know if you've ever heard of his stuff. He did one or two of his books were made into movies. One is called The Road, and another called All the Pretty Horses. But those were films that did quite well. But he said that the aim is to create this perfect thing, but it will never be perfect. But the knowledge that it won't be perfect can't stop you from doing it. Otherwise, you'd never get anything done.
Yeah.
So you set a standard that you know you won't reach, but you try it anyway.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what is the motivation
Yeah,
to
I
do
get
it
that.
in a sense?
But also, like, imperfections also creates like authenticity and originality, which I think people
Sure.
also love.
Yeah, sure.
Because
Yeah.
if everything was perfect, then it would also be kind of sterile in
Yeah.
a sense.
And then they wonder if you're just an
Exactly.
AI.
Yeah.
You're
Like
not a human being.
auto-tuned
Yeah.
music when
Exactly.
the recordings are too perfect,
Yeah.
it sounds
It just
odd.
sounds weird, yeah. So what advice for somebody maybe who wants to start with music or start a band or get into the music industry, what advice would you give someone like that? Somebody who has no experience at all?
Wow. Develop a really thick skin as
Yeah.
quickly as
Yeah.
possible. Understand rejection, all these kinds of.
And persevere.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of the cliched thing is to, there's a great joke which goes something like the difference between a jazz musician and a pizza is that a pizza can feed a family. So there's that. You have to kind of if you're going to throw everything you have at it, and you're determined to make a living out of it, as I was when I left school, if you forego a more classic or standard type of education, if you're not entrepreneuric really in your, or entrepreneurial, is that, I'm not sure what the word is there. If you're not an entrepreneur and you don't have other ideas of what you can do for income, and you just want to go out there and play music, it's pretty tricky. You have to be pretty brave, I think, to do that. Having said that, the internet was not a thing when I started. When I left high school, there was a computer room that had like one computer in it, and you had to book your time on the computer. Now people are carrying around cell phones that are, 1,000 times more powerful than what computers were then. So with things the way they are now, it doesn't have to be as scary. But if you use social media properly and you understand how that works, it doesn't have to be like you're just walking into oblivion type of thing. But certainly it was like that for guys who started in my generation. You just kind of went out there and said, well, this place is hiring musicians, let's go and have a go there, Put a band together, jump in a vehicle, and let's drive to the next town and do one night there and see what happens after that. There wasn't really much thought more than that behind it. But again, I think you feel compelled to do it. So it's not so much that you calculate how you're going to do it. That's what you want to do. You want to play, so you go and play.
To kind of get back at what you just said, like with the technology and stuff, do you think, because I feel like before Spotify, before YouTube, before everything like that, there was a lot more of a need for live music, for musicians. So do you think, like, the internet kind of helped as well, do you think also it negatively impacted?
Certainly, certainly in fact, ironically, the internet is the place you can go to hear people discussing this at length. I mean, on YouTube, there's hundreds of people having these debates at the moment, particularly with what AI can do with, imitating human voices now and things like that. But I also think, here's my old man's view on it, is that, we invented motorbikes years and years ago, but that didn't stop people running against each other in races. Motorbikes are much faster than people, but we still wanted to run against each other. We have chess computers or chess engines that can defeat the strongest players in the world, but there's still millions of chess players in the world competing. So humans have a strange fascination with each other. And I don't see that changing just because we have AI.
No.
At a certain point, people are going to want to know, was that a human being that sang that, or was that is that an AI song? They might appreciate and admire what the computer can do, but they're probably more likely to want to go and see the human being that sang the, take a modern artist, successful artist like, say, Billie Eilish. So why are people going to her concerts? I mean, we can watch her on our phone right now if we want. You can see her on the screen. So why are they going to the... Okay, sure, they're at the concert with their phone, filming it, which is kind of weird. But still, they're there. They go because they know she's going to be there. The actual woman, not just the picture, so...
Yeah, there'll always be a need for live
I think so. Well, we hope so.
I believe it.
No, I think so too.
We need it.
Yeah, no.
People need it.
Yeah,
especially at the worst times in our lives. You need people to come together. You can't be together if you're alone at home watching a screen.
I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Has anyone interrupted the live stream to use the toilet?
No, but you're more than welcome.
Can I be the first? Would you mind?
No, I wouldn't mind.
I drank a huge bottle of water before I got here.
Wait, let me ask you 2 more questions, and then we're done. I see you've already been busy for 40 minutes.
Are we at the end?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
okay.
So.
Sorry, folks. So. Just keeping it real.
Yeah. I mean, it's live. It is real.
Yes. It is real. Yeah.
So, I actually just want to ask you, what's next? Like, where's your next performance? Where can people go see you?
So the next performance, we are at Crater Coffees in
nice.
Parys.
Ja.
It's a charity event for the SPCA and also for the epilepsy.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, and it's called
Called
Christmas in July. There you go.
Fun.
Yeah, so that's on the 27th.
Yeah, that's on the 27th. So actually not a lot happening between now and then.
Yeah.
Unless
I'm a bit of
anyone
a
needs
quiet-
a band,
Yes, let
hit
us
us
know.
up with your request. That'll be awesome.
And that's actually my next question. Where can people find out more about you? Where can
Great, so they
contact
can
you?
go onto our Facebook page.
Mm.
It's just under Alabama Dream, and everything's on there. We've got email address, phone number, can WhatsApp us. Probably better to WhatsApp. I tend to not answer my phone. I'm very bad with that.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming onto our show and for chatting with me.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you
Thanks for having us.
us.
Yeah, it's been
That's
fun.
awesome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we love you guys.
This was so fun for me just to chat with you. I really enjoyed
Great.
it.
Great.
So, yeah.
Please, thank you. Awesome.
Okay. Dankie
Thanks for
julle.
listening.
Driekus miljoen is middag terug met nog 'n episode van Rugby Raw, so dan kan julle 3:30 daarna kom kyk. En ja, dan moet almal 'n lekker warm dag hê en dan sien ek julle weer volgende week.